There you go. Okay. I have to choose this and that, and I'm never like the which email address and whatever. I'm never sure that I do it right.
Oh, you do
Okay.
everything right.
What?
You do everything right.
Yes, of course. Except when I don't. Okay. Welcome to Garden of the Spirit. I can see me. This room is a lot lighter than when I give the class from my house. Welcome to Garden of the Spirit, a class studying apples from the orchard for the second time, beginning after Pesach 2014. This class meets in Long Meadow, Massachusetts, the center of the universe, and is held in memory of Malka Ruth Bas Moshe, Margaret Vogel of blessed memory. Apples from the Orchard contain selections of teachings of Kabbalah from the Arizal, Rabbi Yitzchak Luria, based on the weekly Torah portion, superbly translated and explained by Rabbi Moshe Wisniewski. We are at page 642, Emor chapter 3. Hmm. Okay, and this one is 4 pages and a bit. Right, I'm in the wrong place. See? Okay. One of the services in the Beis Hamikdash was called Lechem Hapanim, known as the showbread. I am going to refer to it here by the Hebrew name Lechem Hapanim. I don't like the showbread. Loaves would be better. The Kohanim baked 12 loaves every week. The Lechem Hapanim was actually not chametz. It was considered matzah. Even though it's called lechem, lechem is a generic term for food, and matzah is a form of lechem as well. So don't be misleaded by the word showbread. It was matzah and never became chametz. The 12 loaves were made from 24 sa'ah of flour. So each loaf was made from 2 sa'ah of flour. I think one, I think 2 sa'ah would be the equivalent of, let's say, if you filled seven 2-liter bottles of soda. That would be 2 sa'ah.
That's a lot of flour.
Yes, and that would be one loaf. I looked this up many years ago. Each finished loaf was 10 handbreadths long. That would be perhaps 36, 40 inches. Five, it's like the challah that they have at the weddings or bar mitzvahs. 5 handbreadths wide. That would be about 20, 24 inches, 18 to 24 inches, and 7 thumb widths tall. There's no such word as thumb widths. They made me separate into 2 words. 7 thumb widths tall, and that I know that 1 thumb width is 2 centimeters. So 7 thumb widths would be about 14 centimeters, which would be about what, 4 or 5 inches?
7 inches.
What?
7 inches.
14. Okay.
Less than 7 inches because it's 2.54 centimeters to an inch.
So 14 would be about
6,
6 inches.
about
About
5, like that. Yeah.
2 handbreadths at each end were folded upward. Some say like an open, shaped like an open staple, and some say the shape of a closed staple. What happened to those two at the end is a difference of opinion, but they were curved. They were folded. The loaves were placed on the shulchan, the table, in 2 parallel stacks, 6 on each stack or tower. There's a tray for each one. The Torah says to place lechem hapanim on the shulchan always. And we're also going to translate it later as continuously. Therefore, As two Kohanim slid the fresh lechem hapanim on the trays on one side of the shulchan, two other Kohanim slid the old lechem hapanim off the trays from the other side, so that the trays were never without lechem hapanim. The lechem hapanim was replaced every Shabbos. Okay, yeah, Alan, you could begin.
Two types of eating. You shall take fine flour and bake it into 12 loaves. This is the commandment to prepare showbread for the tabernacle. There were 12 loaves of this special bread, which were placed on a special table in the sanctuary before Shabbos and replaced with newly baked loaves a week later.
Okay, thanks. And by the way, I should say, if I have trouble with the internet, remember we used to have that problems. If I have connection problems, I'm giving now from yeshiva, so I'm going to try to get back on. If it doesn't work, I might just run home and do it from there. Okay, number 2. When Rosh Chodesh falls on Sunday, we read the Haftorah, the Shabbos Haftorah, about David and Yonasan meeting in secret. Yonasan informs David that Shaul is angry enough to kill David. David becomes a fugitive and goes to Nov, the city of the Mishkan. That's not short for November, it's just Nov. The city where the Mishkan was. David tells Achimelech the Kohen that he and his attendants have not eaten. Achimelech says the only food he has on hand are loaves of lechem hapanim that were removed from the shulchan. And the book of Shmuel writes, the Kohen gave him sacred food, for there was no other bread there, except for the lechem hapanim was being removed from before Hashem in order to place hot bread on the day it is taken off. So this simply means that that they put fresh hot bread on the lechem hapanim to replace the old bread. It says losum lechem chom biyom hilakcho. But we learned from here, the Gemara learns from here, that the lechem hapanim remained warm even after it stayed a week on the shulchan. They took it off the shulchan and it was still warm. Okay, that is the next page 643 at the top. Go ahead, Alan.
We will now explain why there were 12 loaves of showbread and why they were miraculously warm even when they were replaced. Our sages state that the showbread remained warm the whole week they were in the temple. This fact is derived from the verse, to replace it with warm bread on the day it was taken away, which refers to the showbread. Although this verse does not directly imply that the showbread stayed warm the whole week, the homiletic interpretation is based on the fact that the phrase warm bread may be taken to refer to the bread of the previous week, warm bread on the day it was taken away.
All right, 3. We often speak about the interaction between Zer Anpin and Nukva. Interaction also takes place between Abba and Ima, which the names of the spheres are Chachma and Bina. Being here that we're talking about interaction, I use the terms Abba and Ima through most of this explanation. The relationship between Zer Anpin and Nukva depends on our deeds, and that's what we usually speak about. But Chachma and Bina are different. Their relationship is constant. They are known as Re'im, friends or companions. I guess it's in Zohar that they are called Trei Re'in Delo Misparshin, 2 friends, 2 companions that never separate. The pasuk in Shir Hashirim says, "Ichlu re'im," eat companions. Their relationship, the way they interact, is called eating or consuming. There are several times in the Torah that marital relationship is euphemistically called eating food. Abba and Ima are able to interact. Okay, so now Abba and Ima are able to interact because of a flow of energy from Arachanpin, large face, and that's the outer section of Kesser. The 13 attributes of mercy that we say in Tachanan, that we say in the Slichos, are associated with the beard, which has 13 sections. Each of the 13 attributes of mercy is called a mazel, which is higher, aloof, and is not affected by our misdeeds. At that level, it's able to overlook or forgive our misdeeds and convey blessing in spite of our actions. That's why they are the 13 attributes of mercy. And so it says here that these 13 attributes mercy are within Arich Anpin. And from one of them, the Arizal, from one of these mazals, or 13 attributes of mercy, there is a flow of energy to Abba and Ima, and because of that, Abba and Ima are able to interact. The Arizal appears to refer to the attribute of Erech Apayim, slow to anger, which is similar to Arich Anpin. Arich Anpin, so here's some, what do you call them? Idiomatic expressions, perhaps. The Hebrew word, the Torah talks about Erech Apayim. Erech Apayim we translate as slow to anger. The word Erech means long or to drag out. And Apayim could usually refer to the nose. Apayim refers to the nose. The nose is associated with anger, because when a person gets angry, his nostrils, I guess, flare, and he starts breathing heavily through the nostrils. So, the nose is a code name or code term for anger. Erech Apayim, the length, literally the length of the nose, but in this case it would be slow to anger. What's the other word? Even temperament. There's another way to say it. I think even temperament or something. Temperate.
It's even tempered.
Yeah, I guess that kind of word. So that's Erech Apayim. The outer section of Kesser is called Arich Anpin. Arich also means long or major, and Anpin we translate it as face. I don't know if it means specifically the nose or it means the face as well. So they are similar terms. It's just I think that the one in the Torah is more of an more idiomatic. But he doesn't. The Arizal does not say specifically. The commentary says that it refers to this one mazel is Arich Anpin. Okay, Alan, go ahead.
To explain, it has been explained that a number of different couplings between the various partsufim above in the spiritual realms are termed eating. The purpose of the transformation or metamorphosis of the spheres into partsufim was that they be able to interact and cross-fertilize each other. These unions produce fruit or offspring in the form of divine energy or light or consciousness that shines into the lower partsufim or the lower worlds. The reason some of these couplings are termed eating will be explained below.
Go ahead.
This is the mystical meaning of the verse, "Eat, O beloved companions." This verse refers to the coupling of Abba and Ima, which is occasioned by the flow of energy from the holy mazel of the beard of Arich Anpin. In order for Abba and Ima to couple, they must receive a dose of higher consciousness from the partsuf above them, that of Arich Anpin. In a parallel passage in the Arizal's writing, the phrase "the mazel of the beard of the Atika Kadisha, is used instead of the holy mazel of the beard of Arachanpin. Although the term Arach Yomin refers specifically to the higher of the two parsufim of Kesser, the term Atik Kadisha, the holy ancient one, is a general term for Kesser. The beard is seen in Kabbalah as the seat of mercy or empathy, Rachmanim. Kabbalistic works identify 13 components of the beard, either tufts or parts of the face that are devoid of hair, and thus outline the beard, corresponding to Hashem's 13 attributes of mercy. Indeed, Arach Anpin literally means patience or the patient one, a concept closely aligned to that of mercy. The 13 components of the beard of Arach Anpin are called mazalot, sing mazel, which means literally a source of flow or influence.
Okay. I was looking, thank you. I was looking before.
Mhm.
For the chart. The chart is back on page 133. How do we write this here?
Of the divine attributes, of the 13 attributes.
It's on the chart on page 130. I'm going to say as explained. Okay. I wanted to get in the chart there. Okay, thanks. 4. Now, Arachampin is composed of 3 combinations of the name Havaya for a total of 12 letters. The 12 letters correspond to the 12 other attributes of mercy. There were 13. The gematria of Havaya is 26, and 26 times 3 is 78, the same as Mazla, the Aramaic word for mazel. The 13th mazel stands apart from the other 12 and is the one that conveys energy to Abba and Ima so they can interact. It also says that this 13th mazel doesn't only stand apart, but also has an effect on the other 12. And then the energy, this one is able to cause Abba and Ima to interact. Okay, go ahead, Alan.
As is known, the beard of Arachanpin is composed of the 3 iterations of the divine name Havaya, which together give 12 letters, corresponding to the 12 other parts of the beard besides the 13th mazel. The numerical value of these 3 names, 3 times 26, is the same as that of the word in Aramaic for mazel, mazla, 78. These 13 mazlos are divided into 2 groups, 12 corresponding to the 4-letter divine name Havaya repeated 3 times, giving 12 letters. The 13th mazel stands by itself and summarizes or encapsulates the other 12. This is alluded to by the fact that the numerical value of 3 times the divine name Havaya, 3 times 26, equals the numerical value of the Aramaic word. The Zohar is written in Aramaic for mazel, which is masla, 78. It is this 13th mazel that must shine upon Abba and Ima in order for them to couple. As is explained in Kabbalah and Hasidus, that it is the 13th mazel that makes the entire set of mazlos into attributes of mercy. This is because numerically 12 is a closed, rigid, perfect system reflected in the physical world by the 12 lunar months and the 12 signs of the zodiac. In the Jewish people, by the 12 tribes, in the spiritual realm, by the 12 permutations of the letters of the divine name Havaya, and so on. In each of these sets, however, there is sometimes hidden hidden there is a sometimes hidden 13th element that adds the flexibility and adaptability that makes the set alive, pliable, and visible, and viable. This is perhaps most graphically seen with regard to the 12 lunar months. In the Jewish calendar, a 13th month is added in 7 out of every 19 years in order to align the lunar cycle with the solar cycle. Here, the 13th lunar month makes the 12 original ones into an empathic system that can coexist with its solar mate. Similarly, the 13th tribe, Levi, officiates at the temple, reconciling the 12 tribes of the Jewish people with their mate, Hashem. This passage, therefore, means that in order for Abba and Ima to couple, they must receive a flow of mercy or compassion consciousness. This is, of course, a lesson pertinent to human marital relationships as well, and indeed to all types of interpersonal communication. The underlying consciousness and attitude toward the other partner must be one of compassion, empathy, and mercy.
All right. Thank you. That's fascinating. Now, 78 is also the value of lechem, bread, food. As we said before, that the interaction between Chachma and Bina and the relationship between male and female are compared to eating bread. That the pasuk in Shir Hashirim says, "Ichlu re'im," eat companions or friends. Jim, would like to continue.
And of the word for bread, lechem 78. This indicates the dependence of coupling, eating bread, on the flow of consciousness from the mazel.
Okay, so that's coming down from the mazel into Chachma and Bina. The 12 letters of 3 names Havaya correspond to the 12 loaves of Lechem Apanim. The 13th mazel itself corresponds to the 12 loaves. So that before we said that the 12 letters correspond to the 12, and then the 13th is by itself. Here we say that the 13th itself corresponds to the 12 loaves. And it's like the letter Vav, which can be expanded into 2 Vavs, Vav, Vav. Does it say it here? Each Vav is 6, and 2 Vavs make 12. It does not explain why this 13th mazel corresponds to the Vav. But the 13th mazel corresponds to the letter Vav, and if you expand it, there are 2 Vavs. That gives you 12. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Corresponding to these 12 letters are the 12 loaves of showbread. This is because the holy 13th mazel expresses the concept of the double Vav, which equals 12, since the numerical value of the letter Vav is 6.
And the 2 stacks or towers of loaves on the shulchan, each with 6 loaves, also correspond to the 2 Vavs of expanded spelling Vav. Not only the 12 showbread, but the 2 stacks, the 2 towers. Each one looks like a Vav. So they can they can also correspond to the letters Hey of Hashem's name, who have a value of 6 in expanded spelling. And remember, there are actually 3 ways that they can be expanded, but this is Hey Aleph is a value of 6. 2 Hay's in Hashem's name, 2 letters Hey is 6 and 6, a total of 12. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
This is why the showbreads were arranged in 2 sacks, 6 on one side, 6 on the other. This also explains the 2 letters Hey of the divine name Chavaya, whose combined numerical value when spelled out is also 12. When the letter Hey is spelled out, Hey Aleph, the numerical value of the two Heys, Hey Aleph, 5 plus 1, 5 plus 1 is 12. In any case, this exposition indicates that the showbread is the physical manifestation of this 13th mazel, which, as we said, encapsulates and includes all of the other 12.
Okay, number 8. As we said earlier, the interaction between Abba and Ima is constant. It's likened to eating. Zer Ampin and Nukva, on the other hand, interact on occasion. In the metaphors, both food and relations bring a person physical feelings of pleasure. But a person can live without marital relations. He cannot live without food. The commentary points out that the passion involved in marital relations is absent when eating. Eating is the metaphor for the interaction of intellect, which is not passionate. Relations is the metaphor for the interaction of emotions, which are more passionate. A little, this is mine, a little what he says. You see, the Hebrew is just one line. So there's a nice commentary here. So it explains why they use a metaphor of eating or a euphemism of eating, but it is it more like states it than explains it. So there's the whole commentary to explain. Okay, go ahead, Jim.
Now, since the coupling of Abba and Ima is termed eating, it never ceases. The two main pairs of parts of Ima are Abba and Ima and Zerampan and Nukva. Whereas the coupling of the former pair is constant, the coupling of the latter pair is occasional. The constant, steady state relation between Abba and Ima is therefore termed eating, for it is much less charged and ardent than the love relationship between the younger pair, Zerampan and Nukva, the offspring of Abba and Ima. This is to be expected since Abba and Ima are the parts of him of the intellect, Zerampan and Nukva, constitute the emotions and their expression. We may perhaps find an allusion here to the romantic aspect of a couple intimately dining together. As a shared experience, eating together is a relaxed, sedate, and form of coupling. Interesting, Jewish law allows a wife to delegate all her duties to her husband to servants, except for 3, since they are considered arousing. These are making his bed, washing his face, and serving him meals.
Thank you. And I want to point out that making the bed doesn't mean what we call making the bed. It means putting the bed together, like putting the sheets on and stuff. I think straightening out the blanket, as far as I remember, is permitted. Serving him meals, this includes, let's say, bringing a drink. If I'm not mistaken, only a wife should bring her husband even a glass of water. Okay, you can continue.
The union of the intellect must be constant in order for the world to continue to exist. The union of emotion and expression, however, need not be constant, although the quality of life increases the more frequently this union occurs. It is this union that results from our observance of the Torah and the performance of the mitzvot.
Okay, thanks. And I should add that before a woman goes to mikvah, she is not allowed to make the bed. That means like put the sheets on and stuff in the presence of her husband. If he's not in the room, then it's okay, and certainly not washing his face. And as far as serving him meals or bring a drink or something, it should be placed in a different. It should be put down in a different manner. Maybe using the left hand instead of the right hand, or putting it a little distance so that he has to move it closer to himself. That's during the time when before a woman goes to mikvah, when they're not allowed to have contact. Okay, 9. Since Abba and Ima interact continuously, the lechem apanim must always be on the shulchan. Even when they remove the old loaves, the fresh loaves are slid onto the trays at the same time. They remained warm the entire week. They're on, and I should point out that the Torah uses the word always or continuously. They remained warm the entire week. They were on the shulchan, as we read before, to replace it with warm bread on the day it was taken away. The heat of the loaves reflects the heat of continuous interaction between Abba and Ima. Even though he said before it's not of the passionate kind, and it's compared to eating, but there is interaction and there is heat or passion, and this this is why the loaf stayed warm, because the interaction between Abba and Ima is continuous or constant. The Torah does use the word chom, heat, to refer to animals who are aroused, or animals in heat. So it's interesting that we have the same terms in Hebrew as in English. It could be that the common use of the word heat is taken from the Torah, is taken from the Torah's expression. Okay, so you can go ahead.
Therefore, this bread, which is synonymous with the supernal mazel and arouses them, Abba and Iba, to the constant coupling termed eating, had to remain on the table in the sanctuary at all times. And so it is written, and you shall set showbread on the table before me at all times. The fact that the showbread had to be on the table at all times indicates the union of Abba and Ima is constant, since this union is dependent upon the 13th mazel, which is, as stated above, the spiritual correlate of the showbread. This,
One moment. Yeah, I'm sorry, go ahead.
this is also why they remained warm constantly, as it is written, to replace it with warm bread on the day it was taken away. This alludes to the constant arousal of the heat of the said coupling.
Okay, one more sentence.
So the Arizal now discusses why it is the Kohanim, priests who officiate the temple, eat the showbread.
Okay, 11. The Kohanim are one clan with the tribe of Levi. Aaron, the father of all Kohanim, was a Levite. In many places in the Torah, the Kohanim are called the Kohanim, the Levites. In other places, they are just called Levites. The Kohanim personify Chachma, and the Levites personify Bina. As we said, these two are in constant companionship. They interact continuously. Because of this, there is no severe judgment in Bina. The judgments in Bina get sweetened. And Chachma and Bina are considered one unit, and it is appropriate to refer to a Kohen as a Levite. Yitzchak, are you able to read?
Yeah.
Okay, page 646 at the top.
Alrighty. The Arzal now discusses why it is that the Kohanim eat the showbread. Now the priest would eat this bread. This is because the priests in the upper world express the sphere of Chachma. It is at this level that the high priest of all the 10 sefirot begin.
Okay, thanks. 12. Below, the Levi personifies Grura, which contains severe... I'm sorry. Keep reading, Yitzchak.
Okay. This is the mystical way to understand the verse. The priests, the Levites. As you have noticed, the priests are called Levites in many verses, such as, and the priests, the sons of Levi, approached, and so on. Although the priests, being descended from Aaron, are of course members of the tribe of Levi, they are not usually referred to as Levites. That term is reserved for the rest of the members of the tribe, i.e. the non-priest, who have an entirely different set of duties to perform in the temple.
And continue.
The reason is because the supernal priests and Levites are the Sfirot of Chachma and Bina, respectively. Since the union of these two Sfirot is constant, the Levite at this level is completely sweetened, without any severe judgment. He is therefore strongly bound to the priest, and they are considered one.
Go ahead.
Chachma is the initial flash of insight. Bina is the development of that insight into a full intellectual structure of thought. In the process of analyzing and developing the insight, the mind can sometimes lose track of the original idea, going off on tangents and trains of thought that were never implied in it. The end result is a perversion of the original truth. In order to prevent this, Bina must stay connected to Chachma. That is, the development of the idea must be constantly checked and evaluated against the experience of the initial insight. Then the pristine brilliance of the inspiration can keep the intellectual process on track. So, in the upper worlds, where Chachma and Bina are in a state of constant union, as we have said, Bina, or the Levite, is constantly being purified by Chachma, the priest. Down here below, however, where Chachma and Bina are not always connected, matters are different.
Okay. And 12. Below, the Levi personifies Gvura, which contains severe judgment. At this level, they do not always interact. Therefore, the Lechem Apanim was only eaten by the Kohen and not the Levi. Okay, go ahead.
Below, however, where the Levite personifies severity, they do not unite. Since in this world, Bina can, if left alone, stray far from the pristine insight of Chachma, it can even serve as a potential source for evil, which elicits God's severe judgment. Therefore, the showbread was eaten only by the priests who personify Chachma.
Okay, so the Lechem Hapanim, you said, is represents the constant interaction between Abba and Ima and the flow of energy that it gets from the mazel, from Arich Anpin. And that, I think, is it in short. Okay, any questions or comments?
Good. Are those potatoes with the schnitzel? Yes.